Welcome, friends, to Oxford News This Week. I'm Chuck Cameron, filling in for our regular anchors, Jim Hughes and Terry Stiles. We've got a lot of stories for you this week, so get comfortable. In today's headlines, waste hauler hubbub follows GFL takeover, getting the board back together, the Board of Education's 2 new members, and a busy week for first responders, from fatal shootings to phone scams to fundraisers. So sit back, stay tuned, because you're watching Oxford News This Week. At the Village Council meeting on July 11, Village Manager Joe Medore updated the other members on the state of the Park Street water main construction project. The project spans from Pontiac Street to Mechanic Street. The village is contracted with Rowe Professional Services Company to install new services on 25 homes, as well as create a new 8-inch water main, a new infiltration storm sewer at 4 locations, among other cleaning, removing, and replacing systems. Despite submitting an application around 4 months ago and an expedition for a start date of immediately after the 4th of July, the project has not yet begun. Medore exclusively attributes delays to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. Medore said the department did not look at the village's application until about 4 weeks ago, and that they suddenly wanted changes and additions. Medore said the situation will hopefully be resolved soon, and that he sent a letter to impacted residents to update them on the project status. The Oxford Township Board of Trustees has approved a ballot language for a single waste hauler ordinance to be added to the November 5th general election ballot, setting the stage for Oxford Township voters to make a decision on waste hauler. The ordinance asks voters if the Board of Trustees should grant the township the authority to award the 5-year residential trash collection contract with a single waste hauler. Currently, Oxford Township has multiple companies collecting trash from residents on various dates and times. The potential of making the switch has been highly contentious, with the issue originally being tabled in April of last year after hundreds of residents attended meetings and complained. The ballot language was unanimously approved at the July 10th board meeting. The proposed ordinances does not affect residents of the village of Oxford who are already in a single waste hauler system through the village government. In addition, the township offices have recently received complaints from some Oxford Township residents regarding late garbage pickups. The problem stems from the expansion of the company Priority Waste, which took over residential accounts from GFL Environmental on July 1st. WXYZ Detroit reports that officials from Priority Waste say they've been trying to catch up on the trash collections for their old and new customers in over 70 communities. For those Oxford residents who have contacted the township, because contracts between homeowners and garbage companies are currently private, the township has no authority to enforce the contracts or services. CBS News Detroit reports that the Director of Public Relations and Government Affairs for Priority Waste, Matt Allen, said customers can expect to get back on track by this week. Good news. 2 new members have joined the Oxford Board of Education after the resignation of Heather Schaefer and Mary Hanser, the final 2 members who served on the board during the tragedy. Hanser and Schaefer announced they were stepping down on June 12 after parents were calling for their removal. Less than a month later, at the special board meeting on July 8, the board appointed 2 new members, Michael Aldred and Ann Atchison. Typically, board members are elected to 4-year terms. However, Aldridge and Atchison will only serve through the end of December, and the certification of the November election, respectively. The two were selected from a group of 10 applicants, 5 of whom were chosen to be interviewed, and only 3 of whom were present to be interviewed. Aldred was appointed with a 4-1 vote, and he will also be serving on the Board Governance Committee and the Board Safety Committee. Atchison was approved with a 3-2 vote and will serve on the Board Policy Committee. To learn more about the candidates, visit the Oxford Leaders website or watch the live stream of the meeting on the Oxford Community Television's YouTube page. First responders flocked to the Tim Hortons on North Lapeer Road to support the Camp Day fundraiser and to raise money for underserved youth across North America. Camp Day occurs every year on June 17. 100% of the proceeds from every hot and iced coffee sold on the 17th will be donated to Tim Hortons Foundation camps. The Tim Hortons Foundation offers programming in schools, communities, and 7 camps across North America. Funds raised on Camp Day help connect young people from low-income households to Tim's camps. Multi-day overnight experiences that help build the strengths and skills to pursue education, contribute to communities, find jobs, and live fulfilling lives. Good. This year, members of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, Oxford Fire Department, and Oxford Village Police spent part of their morning working at the local Tim Hortons to help the team with their fundraising efforts. First responders served customers, collected donations, and bolstered community spirit. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office is again warning residents about telephone scams after a spike of complaints about phony calls. On July 15, several residents reported that phone callers were threatening their arrest for allegedly missing jury service unless they made an immediate payment. Similar telephone scams occurred in February and April. CBS News reports that earlier this month, a woman in Troy lost $13,500 after receiving a call and believing it was real because the caller ID came up as the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. The callers in this most recent version of the scam have claimed to be Deputy Curtis Child, who is actually the undersheriff. A press release from the sheriff's office states that typically the fake law enforcement members make a false claim that there is an arrest warrant out for the recipient's arrest because of a failure to appear from jury duty in federal or state court. The callers claim that the only way to set the warrant aside is to pay a cash bond in either Bitcoin or gift cards. The statement also says that the sheriff's office and the courts do not accept those forms of payments for cash bonds, and that delinquent jurors are only contacted by mail. Sheriff Michael Bouchard warned residents to just hang up, as the sheriff's office will never demand payment over the phone for anything. A fatal shooting in Orion Township on July 17 left a 67-year-old domestic abuser dead after he broke into the home of his ex-girlfriend. The man, armed with a gun and an axe, smashed a window of the Elkhorn Lake home where his 62-year-old girlfriend was living. At a news conference held later the same day, Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard said the man, identified as Galen Gavitt, was intent on hunting down his ex. The ex-girlfriend had obtained an extreme risk protection order on June 12, prohibiting Gavitt from owning firearms, and had also gotten a personal protection order. After Gavitt broke into the home, the stepson and Gavitt's ex-girlfriend ran to an upstairs bedroom, and Gavitt fired a shot through the door. To prevent Gavitt from breaking into the bathroom where the ex-girlfriend had locked herself in, the stepson fired a single shot and hit Gavitt in the head. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The Detroit Free Press reports that the incident showed that Michigan's new extreme emergency protection order only work if those who have had their guns seized cannot rearm themselves in other ways. Sheriff Bouchard ended the news conference about the incident by saying, It's a crime to provide guns or ammunition to anyone who is the subject of an extreme risk protection order. The operator of several local Leo's Coney Island restaurants has been accused of breaking overtime regulations and not paying employees properly. On July 16, the U.S. Department of Labor said it received a consent preliminary injunction against Kyriakos Ken Vladahamis. He operates 4 out of the 70 Leo's locations in Michigan, restaurants in Clarkston, Dearborn, Livonia, and Sterling Heights. The Leo's Coney Island in Oxford is not operated by Vladahamis. Officials say Vladahamis has a history of defying overtime regulations. The preliminary injunction terms state that Vladahamis and Sterling Ponds Plaza LLC, the franchise's location operator, have agreed to maintain accurate employee time cards, good, and stop denying employees overtime pay, good. Investigators of the department's wage and hour division said Vladahamis kept 2 sets of time cards and destroyed the one showing overtime hours to avoid paying them. The Department of Labor said his actions violate a 2018 court order forbidding violations of the Fair Labor Standards Act and are asking the court to hold him in civil contempt. It might be hard to believe that August begins next week, but with the new month comes new festivities too. Lake Orion's Dragon on the Lake Festival has reached its 15th anniversary. As the nonprofit Orion Arts Center's largest fundraiser, the festival includes an art fair, boat races, chalk art contest, and activities for all ages. To kick off the 3-day celebration, the Lake Orion Lake Association invites inventively illuminated watercraft, you know who you are, to compete in the annual Lighted Boat Parade on Friday, August 23rd. The parade will begin at Greens Park at 8:30 p.m. and move counterclockwise around the lake. A panel of judges will review the boats based on decorations, lighting, eye appeal, and participant enthusiasm. Yay! The first place winner will earn $300 and cash prize will be awarded to the top 3 winners. A participant registration form is new this year. Any boats that do not pre-register by August 14 are welcome to participate on the day of the parade, but will not be eligible for judging or cash prizes. All participants must also turn in a signed liability waiver form. To find the pre-registration and waiver forms, visit the Lighted Boat Parade page on the Lake Orion Lake Association website. In our Behind the Lens story this week, start your transmission. Thanks to a donation from Borg Warner, an American automotive supplier with Auburn Hills headquarters, Oxford students now have access to brand new models. These are T-case or transfer case models, the equipment that transfers power from the transmission of a vehicle to the drive axles. One of Oxford High School's career and technical education programs is automotive technology. Students will now have access to cutting-edge models that expose them to innovative and sustainable mobility solutions. Pictured in the photo is CTE Director Lisa Butts, the instructor for the Automotive Technology CTE program, John Howell, and Derek Kalla, the Engineering Operations Supervisor and Quality Engineering Lead of the Power Drive Systems at Borg Warner. Butts and Howell extend their thanks to Kalla for the generous donation and look forward to their partnership in the future. In our last story, firefighter fundraiser fulfills travel needs. Up next, Dave Kenny will have Auto Talk and Science in the News. You are watching Oxford News This Week on Oxford Community Television.
Military families often sacrifice precious time away from loved ones while serving our country. And for those with children, the separation can be especially difficult.
We were worried that with him leaving, that she would lose those connections with her dad.
Some of life's best moments happen between parents, children, and the pages of a good book. United Through Reading provides that connection.
You can watch your mom or dad read a book to you, and it almost feels like they're really there.
We ensure they remain a consistent, meaningful part of their children's lives, no matter the distance.
Just seeing Jacob recognize Daddy again after a long time just melted my heart.
And now, as we're facing greater isolation from our loved ones, United Through Reading is also available to veterans. Learn more about United Through Reading and download our free secure app at unitedthroughreading.org.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from Automotive News. Porsche will launch its first rear-wheel drive crossover as the sports car brand expands the electric Macan lineup with 2 new variants in late 2024. The 2025 Macan, which starts at $77,295 with shipping, will be the electric nameplate's new entry model. The single-motor crossover is the lightest variant in the Macan range, weighing 243 pounds less than the all-wheel drive Macan 4. The 480-amp pulse inverter helps control the electric motor, delivering power and torque. For greater efficiency, silicon carbide is used as the semiconductor material in the pulse inverter. The Macan, powered by a 100 kilowatt-hour battery, features output of up to 355 horsepower and accelerates from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.4 seconds. Based on European testing cycles, the variant delivers 398 miles of range. Carl Brower, executive analyst at iCars.com, predicts the additional range and lower price offered by the rear-wheel drive Macan will make it the best-selling variant and draw new customers to the brand. Porsche needs to provide maximum choice across its EV line, Brower said. The new dual-motor, all-wheel drive 509 horsepower Macan 4S will slot below the top-of-the-line 630 horsepower turbo variant. The 4S, outfitted with a new rear axle motor and a front axle motor carried over from other dual-motor variants, near silently zips to 60 miles per hour from a standstill in, 3.9 seconds. The performance model delivers 377 miles of driving range on a single charge. The latest variants come standard with adaptive air suspension, and optional rear axle steering tweaks the chassis for increased performance and comfort. The Macan is the second electric Porsche after the Taycan, which represents the first major update of the nameplate since its U.S. introduction in 2014. The Macan is Porsche's bestseller and represents more than a third of the brand's U.S. sales in the first half of 2024. Porsche plans to quit selling the combustion engine version in 2026. But Porsche told U.S. retailers last year that it's reviewing that timeline to gauge consumer demand for the battery-powered Macan. Porsche Cars North America CEO Timo Resch said the electric Macan broadens the nameplate market. The Macan EV is all new and yet familiar, Resch told Automotive News in January. The Macan EV rides on Volkswagen Group's premium platform electric architecture shared with Audi. Software development issues delayed the Macan's launch by about a year. The electric Macan carries the styling of its gasoline-powered sibling, but makes its battery-powered trained underpinnings known. Short overhangs at the front and rear offset the EV crossover's longer wheelbase. The headlights are split into 2 parts. A flat upper light unit with 4-point daytime running lights is embedded in the fenders, emphasizing the vehicle's width. The main headlight module is positioned lower in the front fascia. Well, can't wait to see it. Well, that's it for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
women are bad with money.
It's what the world's been saying for centuries.
But now, we've got something to say.
Save it. Save the old-fashioned advice, the empty excuses. It's all worthless, unlike us.
To our fellow females, it is time to save ourselves by saving our money.
Contributing to our futures, investing in our independence.
Until we're no longer
80%
80% more likely than men to live in poverty in retirement.
So again, we say to that, save it.
The falsehoods, the feelings of fault, then the funds.
Learn how to save for your retirement at wesaysaveit.org.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and this story is taken from New Scientist. A slow slaughter beneath the waves is surprisingly social. One species of sea slug attacks its anemone prey in teams. The finding highlights how predatory collaboration isn't limited to more complex carnivores like wolves and lions. The study is a nice demonstration that the same forms of cooperative behavior have evolved as a way of solving the challenges of life in vastly different organisms and ecological circumstances, says Michael Cant at the University of Exeter in the UK, who wasn't involved in the research. Ghostly white and adorned with a mane of horn-like projections, Bergia stephania is a nudibranch sea slug native to the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea. It's also a picky eater, feeding only on brown sea anemones, also known as Xapetaceae diaphana. Kate Otter and her colleagues at the University of Massachusetts Amherst were studying the biology and behavior of these finicky fellows and noticed they tended to feed in groups of several slugs. To determine if this was a deliberate pack hunting or just random chance, the researchers conducted feeding experiments. When they placed sea slugs in a tank with two anemones, the slugs didn't divide up into equally sized squads to attack both quarries, as you would expect if the groupings were totally random. Even in a tank with a 1-to-1 ratio of slugs and anemones, where each predator could have had its own prey, the slugs preferred to team up against particular anemones. The observed behavior suggests the slugs were working together. In addition, the groupings didn't match the predictions of a mathematical model that assumed the slugs were all attacking independently. The hunting groups also were small, usually around 3 slugs, but sometimes numbering 6 or more, but they were larger than expected by chance. This cooperation strategy may help slugs subdue their dangerous prey. Brown anemones are armed with venomous tentacles on all sides, but they flop them in one direction when attacked, says Otter. For the sea slugs, ambushing their quarry from multiple angles thus helps reduce the injury load on the individual, she says. In addition, additional experiments, the predators, that is, didn't seem to follow other slugs' slime trails to their prey, nor did they treat a single slug attacking a nearby anemone like a dinner bell. The slugs also don't prefer injured anemones. So for now, it isn't clear how the sea slugs are coordinating or choosing their targets. Talia Borofsky at Princeton University is interested in the questions the research raises, such as whether the group hunting behavior also happens in the wild and how much opportunities the animals normally have to come together and socially forage. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny.
Doctor, or is this with the nurse practitioner? Fantastic. Dad, lunch. Got some soup for you.
You are loved.
Oh, you. Look at those freckles.
This was very much.
You are valued.
Yeah.
You are strong. You are resilient. You got this.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
In our last story today, a firefighter fundraiser fulfills travel needs. Oxford firefighters and an army of student volunteers from 42 Strong, the Tate Meyer Foundation, joined forces to raise money for the family of Sean Goldie. Goldie passed away in April 2023 after battling occupational cancer. He will have his name added to the wall at the International Association of Firefighters Fallen Firefighter Memorial in late September. And the fundraiser was held to help cover the travel costs for his wife Andrea and children Nick and Jenna to visit Colorado Springs and attend the event. On Sunday, July 14, the Oxford Firefighters Union, 47 student members of 42 Strong, and the family members held a car wash to make the money happen. After 4 hours of spraying, scrubbing, rinsing, drying, and probably spraying each other, at Fire Station 1, they raised nearly $2,900. A donation from 42 Strong brought the total up to $5,000. Thanks to the effort of all the participants, the Goldie family will be there when their personal hero's name is added to the memorial. OCTV can be viewed on Spectrum Charter Channel 191 and Channel 99 on AT&T UVerse. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, the Amazon Fire TV stick, and the Roku app as well. If you have a show idea or you would like to volunteer at OCTV, give our office a call at 248-628-9658. A very special thanks to producer and director Kyle Snage, news writer Allison Miller, and station manager Terry Stiles. For everyone here at OCTV, I am Chuck Cameron, hoping you have a safe week, and I invite you back next time when we take a look at Oxford News This Week.